I just believe Schuyler County is one of the most gorgeous places in the world. I often think back as to what would have happened or how we would have ended up if it wasn't for October 1948. I don't think we'd be the same place we are today.
Road racing all through, even from 48 all the way through here, has affected the community economically in more ways than one.
It's a memory that I'd never surrender. It was exciting. You'd have to compare it with the World Series or the Super Bowl. Before 1948, it was a nice tourist community. A lot of people came to the lake, to the Glen. But after 1948, the world comes to Watkins Glen.
Oh, it's affected Schuyler County tremendously. There have been studies how many millions of dollars it brings into the southern tier, just not Schuyler County, but Chemung, all the way as far as Broome County, Binghamton. All of the motels are filled. It has been just an economic boom. All of this started in 1948. My father, Cameron Argetsinger, when he was a young man, had studied the great road courses in Europe, and he had always wanted to race. And he came home from World War II and bought an MG. And no one in this part of the country had ever seen such a car. It was almost like something from outer space. But there was no place to race, and he did know that the roads around here would make a wonderful, wonderful course. And so he got together with the Chamber of Commerce and proposed a race in the October of 1948. There was a man from down near Philadelphia by the name of Frank Griswold. And my father drove him around in his big souped-up Packard convertible at high speed. And that night he said to my mother, "I just met the man who's going to win the race." And my mother said, "Cameron, that's nonsense. You're going to win the race." He said, "No, this man has a 2.9 Alpha, a legendary car, a 1938 car, which was probably the fastest production car in the world. And even in 1948, even though the car was 10 years old, it was still state of the art." And sure enough, Frank Griswold did win that year.
My mother brought me up 6th Street, and I stood on the corner right by the post office. And the first thing I saw was Frank Griswold's Alfa Romeo come around the corner and up Franklin Street.
The village fell in love with it immediately.
And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I turned to my mother and said, "I think I would like to be a race car driver." And from that point on, my mother did everything she could, along with eventually my wife, to make sure I never did that.
And all summer long, I was 6 years old, all summer long he was organizing it. Not only was he going to be a competitor in the race, but he was the organizer.
One of the things that always impressed me, and the races were on the streets of the village for only 5 years. But the atmosphere that existed in this village in that week before the race, and especially the Friday night before the race, it's indescribable. I can sit here and talk to you about it, but there's really no way I can translate the whole thing to you, because it just was extraordinary.
Such a local experience, and it was the people that you saw when it started. I mean, it was just exciting time for a small community.
Downtown drew quite a huge throng of people because there were celebrities.
all of the great race car drivers, Jackie Stewart. In fact, my wife had a special connection with him.
One of the many is that to get to be able to know Briggs Cunningham and the Cunningham team, and then meeting Sterling Moss here in the Lieber race when he came the first year to race in 1959. And they're on all the other stars. When we got the Grand Prix of the United States, it got more super.
Motels and hotels, the race team stayed in those, and the local people got to meet all of these people that were day-to-day workers in racing.
Most of us would spend that time at Smalley's garage watching the cars come in. One remarkable occurrence that I had with a friend of mine, Butch Hollenbeck, we were down there in 1958 when a man came in driving a TR 250. It couldn't be very old. It looked like it was brand new, and he didn't have anybody to help him unload the car. So he says to us, "You guys like to help us?"
I was there every year from the downtown racing until the tragedy happened.
Well, I was at the 1952 Grand Prix. The two cars, the Allard and the Cunningham, touched wheels right in front of me. And the Allard went off to the left, and the driver did everything he could to try to save that car, and it hit the pole and went into the crowd.
And the boy that was killed was a brother of my classmate.
Related to the 50th anniversary, I initiated the Walk of Fame, the Grand Prix Drivers Walk of Fame. Phil Hill, in fact, he was here for the Ferrari Club weekend, and I went up to the racetrack to talk to him. And I told him what we were going to do, and he looked at me and said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm not interested." And so I figured, well, we're going to do it the next day, and but he showed up the next day all dressed in his red racing outfit. And they told him, well, it was only going to take a half an hour. That man stayed there for 2 hours, talked to everybody there, signed autographs, and when it was over with, he told me, he says, "That's one of the nicest things that's ever happened to me."
My mother was really one of the main backers of this library that we're sitting in right now. She knew there was a need to preserve racing. So much stuff, people would be up in grandfather's attic and they'd die and they'd be throwing away photos and films. And starting about 1996, she got together with the public library, she was president of that, and with the racing community, and they built this building that we're in right now. And the Motor Racing Research Center has thousands and thousands of archives, and it's open to the public, and it's been a great benefit.
My children like the racing scene. Even my wife likes the racing scene. I mean, she goes up with us when we go most times.
All my 3 sons are car crazy.
I wasn't here when they had the movie Grand Prix. I was in Morocco I was in the Navy at that time. But I made up for it. I came back, and the last 10 years of the U.S. Grand Prix, you got to see all the best stuff in the world.